Hello, everybody, and welcome to a video where I'm going to be walking through 5 mistakes new drafters make and how to fix them. I recently wrote an article on this topic, but I wanted to share it with all of you folks here on YouTube. You can find the article linked in the description. So, what are the 5 mistakes? Number 1. Playing cards that do nothing. Now, this is a very easy way to tell a new player because if they play a card that does nothing, an example being something like Mimic or Stuffed Bear, these 2-drop kind of cards that like you have to pay extra mana to activate, or just a card draw spell that's so inefficient and bad, or just like there's usually a couple of cards in the set that just aren't very good. And a easy way to improve is to simply not play those cards. And there are different ways you can slowly hone your card evaluation skills. You can watch videos on the topic, but one of the ways that I recommend improving is by having a friend that you can talk to about those things. And if you don't know anyone directly, you can find a Discord server or maybe an online community or a Twitch streamer that you like to talk to about these things. But it's really helpful to be able to ask somebody about why a card is good or why a card is bad, so that you can kind of learn how to fish for yourself instead of just simply being told this card is good, this card is bad. So mistake number 1, playing cards that do nothing. The fix is to have somebody that you can bounce your ideas off of, or have some resources that you can turn to, like articles or videos or ways to improve your card evaluation. But really it's that getting feedback on your perspectives. Number 2 is having no mana curve. Now, there is a large temptation when you are newer to the game to just take the splashy, expensive looking cards, especially in Limited, where it often feels like a format where you just want to have a lot of power because you don't get to just choose whichever rares you want to put into your deck. But in Limited, it is also very important to have a mana curve, because if you don't do anything in the early turns of the game, you're just going to get run over. I vividly remember the first time that my opponent curved out on me. They went 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, and I had like played a card, like one card over the course of the game, and I was already dead. And just having that happen to you is the sort of thing that kind of sticks with you. And so once you kind of unlock the secrets of the mana curve, it does make a big difference. One of the things that I like to aim for in most of my decks is to aim for at least 4 2-drops. And by 2-drops, I mean like creatures or proactive plays you can make on turn 2. And for an aggressive deck, you should have at least 6. So those are that's like the main spot that you need to focus on the mana curve. The other spots tend to kind of fill themselves out, and then you need to make sure you don't run too many expensive cards. Number 3 is using removal too early. Now, it is very tempting when you are playing to just have mana available, have a removal spell, see a creature your opponent has, and then just fire away because you're like, okay, I have the mana, I have the card, why not use it? But in Limited, it is generally better to make sure that if at all possible, you trade for your opponent's creatures with your creatures, potentially using a double block or something of that nature. If they have a 3/3 and I can block it with a couple of 2/2s, that's going to work out much better for me in the long run than just shooting my removal spell at it and then not having my removal spell for their flyer later. Now, there are times where you have to use your removal spell early just so you don't die, or it helps you stabilize, or things like that. And there are definitely situations for that, but I would say that newer players are more prone to just fire off their removal spell without even thinking twice about it. And if you are trying to improve, trying to save your removal is one of the best ways to do so, because that way you're going to be prepared for those late game situations where your opponent has a threat that really has to be answered with a removal spell. Number 4 is instantly locking into colors. I wanted to make sure I had some tips that are related to the draft portion itself, and there are some, like making sure you prioritize mana curve or knowing which cards are good. But instantly locking into colors is a big draft mistake that happens very frequently when you are a newer player. Opening up your first pick rare, taking that, and then taking a card of a second color with your second pick, and then just never looking back and playing those 2 colors is a really great way to train wreck your draft when those colors end up not being open. Sure, sometimes it will work out. Like some percentage of the time, those colors will be perfectly open and you'll end up with a solid deck. But a lot of the time, one or both of those colors are going to be cut by the person passing to you, and you want to have the tools to identify when this happens. Now, obviously, reading signals is one of the most complex parts of draft, but I do have some other videos on reading signals, and also just a general tip that I would recommend if you are newer and are trying to improve is, instead of locking into your colors after the first 2 picks, just wait a little and lock in around pick 5. Pick 5 is a point in the draft where if you've been taking like the best card out of the pack, you'll generally have some sense of what colors are open by pick 5. And so if you really want to make sure you make playables and you're worried about like reading signals later into the draft and not getting enough playables in your main colors, just slowly, like starting out by locking in at pick 5 and then slowly pushing that back until maybe the end of pack 1 or something like that is a great way to slowly improve your signal reading and the ability to delay the decision on what colors you're going to play. Now, the final tip that I have in terms of mistakes new drafters make is trading down on creatures. And what I mean by this is if you have a 3/2 creature, which is objectively better than a 2/2 creature, and you attack in and your opponent gets to block and just trade their 2/2 for your 3/2, you've lost something there. You've lost that extra point of power, and you've lost a better card than your opponent had. And it's very subtle, and it's a very easy way to lose the game without knowing why. Because if you continually make those sorts of trades, eventually your opponent's going to have something like a 5/5, and you're not going to have anything in play. Because all of your bigger creatures were just trading off for their smaller creatures, so they're going to have like a 5/5, you're going to have a 2/2, and you're just going to lose the game and wonder what happened. And overall, if you are playing in a game of Magic, one of the best ways to win is by slowly but surely building board advantage by making favorable trades. If my opponent attacks a 3/2 into my 2/2, I'm very happy to make that trade because I'm going to be coming out ahead because I traded a worse resource for their better resource. And it also factors in with double blocks. If they attack their 3/3 in and I can double block, I get to make a good trade if they trade their 3/3 for my 2/2. And overall, just one way you can think about it is if you trade your 3/2 for their 2/2, then you won't have your 3/2 available to trade with their 4/3 later, or at least threaten the trade so they can't attack you. Those sorts of things really do add up. And the reason I wanted to highlight this is because it's really easy to not notice this as the cause of your defeat. You're just going to be, you just sit there, see that you have no cards in hand. Your opponent has like 3 or 4 cards in hand. You're wondering what happened. That can be one of the causes of defeat and something that is really easy for a new drafter to miss. Anyway, that is going to do it for the 5 mistakes new drafters make and how to fix them. I really do hope you found this helpful. If you would like to find more information on this, you can read my full article. You can comment below, and I would be happy to answer your questions. And obviously, with any of these rules, there are some exceptions to some of the things. Obviously, playing bad cards doesn't really have an exception to the rule unless those bad cards have a very niche home. But there are going to be some exceptions to these. The point is that these are mistakes that I often see in newer players when I face them at local game stores and things like that, and that these are things that I would be looking to improve if you are newer to the game and hoping to just win more matches. Anyway, if you did enjoy it, I hope you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe for more content, and if you made it all the way till the end of the video, let me know which tip was your favorite, which one you found the most helpful in the comment section down below, and leave hashtag fixed to let me know you made it all the way till the end, because hopefully you will be able to fix some of these mistakes. That's going to do it for this one, though. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time.